So we are back for day 3 of the festival, the Thursday that kicks off with the now Marsh Novices Chase, formerly the JLT. We just had a little intermission break there just to cheer home Portrush Ted. So get that one in there.
Hey. Port Harold.
Boys, it's not going well the last couple of days, I tell you, honestly.
We can't start Thursday off with that. Right,
I know. I did have a really good Boxing Day, though, so it makes up for it.
Happy days. Right, well, the best thing is we're on to the Cheltenham Festival now. This is where we all come into our own. We do well through the season, but payday, innit? One week of the year of March. There's loads of clues that we have seen over Christmas. We've touched on those for the Tuesday and the Wednesday's racing. There's been lots of action that's paid tribute to the racing that's going to go on the Thursday. So starting off with that Marsh Novices Chase, formerly the JLT, it's always one of those that even up to the week of the festival, it tends to be wide open. Opinions are quite often split in here. We've got Forheem, who's favourite for the race. I know we can say that Sam Crow's gone and all those bits and pieces, but Forheem was just so good. It was nice to see him back. Fakir Dewsbury's is being nibbled and supported in here. Could be a potentially sensible thing to do, given the fact that losing that weight for age allowance, he looks held by the likes of Notebook and Arkle. Mr. Fish is being nibbled in here. He has one round at Cheltenham. Champ's still short enough-ish, given the fact that Henderson said before the Dipper that might shape which race he goes for at the Cheltenham Festival. I still think he'll go RSA. But you're looking at sort of probably 10 horses in it, maybe even more than that are all sub 16 to 1, sort of 14 to 1 and under for a JLT, and I wouldn't be particularly confident about any of them. I'm happy to pass this one over, to be honest, because I don't have a real strong opinion in this race anyway. The only thing I would say is all is not lost with Reserve Tank, I don't think. Spring Ground will see him in better light. He's available as big as 20 to 1 in places. He's as short as 8 to 1 in other places. As a price jumping out at this point, he'd be one I'd be semi-tempted with. But, Jamie, I'm going to pass this over to you, mate. Anything you fancy?
You basically took the words out of my mouth there, Dave. I really fancy Reserve Tank for this. I know his form's not great this year, but as Colin Chisard said... Oh, sorry, no, that's... Sorry, 1 second.
You're all right. If you want to take a minute, mate, it's fine.
Yeah, 1 sec. Go ahead there.
Reserve Tank's got no chance in this, James. No, he's a really likeable type, Reserve Tank. He's just jumping, just won't hold up round Cheltenham, especially at that downhill fence, a danger fence free from home. I don't think his jump's going to hold up. He's going to make too many errors. The thing is with him, I really like him, and it's really hard to try and put people off him, but his jumping is just that bad for me that he's not going to get away with it. But you are hard pushed, I think, to find something in it. This is a race that's really going to cut up quite a bit. I mean, Angel's Breath, I'm looking at the Betfair odds at the minute, and they've got Angel's Breath at the top of the market at 7 to 1, who's out for the season, as we know. So, you know, it's a difficult race to kind of work out. I don't think there's going to be a massive field in here, which I think on the day will play a part in who I back. I do like a little bit. I like Spirit de Large, who won at Sandown. I think that was a fair performance from him there. I know it's not the highest of quality field that he beat that day, but Grand Sauncey's not really done the form. No knocks, ran all right at Kempton. I just like the way he travels through the race, and I think he's got a bit of a turn of foot. He could be a bit of anything, really. I'd like to see him again, though, before you know, put my colours to the mast. But this is sort of a race. It's starting to feel like it's sort of a race where the horses that are not good enough to go for the Arkle and can't stay the RSA trip, they sort of all filter in here. And I think that's why people tend to struggle with it. Yeah, it's just a bit of a mess at the minute. I mean, I've got opinions on all of the runners, but I think this is the Lorena's trip. I do think this. I would prefer to see Lorena in here. If she goes in here, she's got to be favourite. I think she's going to have a massive chance. But again, it's just a case with this. It's particularly with this race, is really waiting and seeing where they're going, because any anti-post bets here within a week can just be thrown out the window just by a trainer comment. So, I mean, Faheen, I actually disagree with James. I think he should be going up in trip. I think at his age now, I think he wants further. But I gave him so much crap at the beginning of the season for sending him over fences. There's no way I can go and lump on him here. It's one of those races I'm really torn a bit. So I was hoping you two was going to help me out, but I think we're sort of all in the same boat a bit, aren't we?
Absolutely. And given the prices of the horses that win it when it comes to the festival, I mean, even in hindsight, looking back now, Defi de Soil was a fair price on the data back. It isn't one you necessarily need to be backing out your post for it. Interesting, you did mention Esprit de Large there, because we didn't even give him a talk in the article, did we? Given the fact that we're saying that's a relatively weakish market. I think you are right with him. He's definitely one you want to see out again, and that would shape exactly where he's going to go. He would be the sort of horse, I think, if he, whether they stepped him up in trip or whether he got beat over 2 miles, he could come into this race with a nice enough profile, I think. So, Jamie, you were mentioning Reserve Tank. Do you have anything else you want to get in with him? I
think Reserve Tank, back on a bit of better ground. I think he'll jump better if he had a bit of better ground. You know, I think he's getting stuck in the mud. I thought Hean's a favourite 9-1. I think he will come here. I really do. I might be wrong. I just can't back him. He's a 12-year-old. You know, I know he beat Sam Crow the last day, but Sam Crow, forget about him now. Move on. Mr. Fisher won the last day. I can't have him either. Bad Supreme he ran in last year. It is, I agree with Darrell, it is Lorena's trip. And will they finally run the horse over a trip that suits her? My problem is her jumping's not great either. I'm not a great fan of her. She's never won an open company as well against the boys, so that you kind of put a line through her. A couple of other ones. Bob Palm would interest me if it came here. Yeah, I think he jumped well, but the only thing I say about Bob Palm, he seems to me he's nearly getting to horses triplets. He doesn't find a lot off the bridle either. I'd be worried about the long running. Like, he could be there. He could be slave value. There's a few in here that I thought I was impressed enough with Easy Game the last day, but it was a bit of a bog at Leopardstown. He ran well to the limelight, you know, but at the start of the season, would you say Easy Game out of all the Willie Mullins horses being their number one to the JLT? You wouldn't. The only one interesting. 2 left that interest me here in the betting is Itchy Feet, as you mentioned earlier, that he's definitely going here, but you go back to the form, back to Supreme. No. There's one, of course, I'm in love with, Bar Reserve Tank, and I say don't give up on him. He made a bad mistake last time, he was pulled up. I think he's just a fragile horse, and it's City Island. I always think this horse is a good horse, wherever he runs. I'd have to wait till he runs again on the Dublin Festival to have a bet in him. But I would not discount him totally at the moment. But you'd have to see his next run, see how well he jumps. But at the moment, if I put up the next day, it would definitely be a Reserve Tank.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair, I don't know how much more of Reserve Tank we'll see. Obviously, I guess Aintree would be an option. And then obviously got Punchestown as well. It might not be the case that we only see him now at Cheltenham. His price might not move too much. Worth definitely mentioning City Island in there. I'm not his biggest fan at the slightest, but again, you want to see him come out again. I said the same thing with Lorena last season, the open company thing, but she did, to be fair to her, the Novices chase she won this season, there were some boys in there as well. It's just that graded form against the boys in it that puts you off. But at the beginning of the season was one that I looked at and thought could be a potential player in here. He was just so bad the last day to be true, I think. That Fanny and Destrival that obviously won so well at Newbury is a potential one at a big price as well. The problem is we end up looking at this race, it almost feels more like we're looking at a handicap sort of race, that these horses shouldn't really be good enough to be winning Grade 1s. It would definitely mean that I'd be leaving until nearer the time. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a strong opinion in it. We happy to move on?
Yeah, just to say quickly, you mentioned Fanny and Destraval. I do think that was the horse to take out of the Wayward Lad at Kempton. I thought things were just happening a little bit too quickly for him around that sharp track. And he took this different proposition with a step up and trip on a more galloping track. So I think there's worse 50-1 shots around than the likes of Fanny and Destraval if he was to go here. But I do think that the target is or before that race, the target was going to be the Arkle. So perhaps they will step him up slightly in trip. He ran over 18 in France, so 18 furlongs in France, which is this sort of trip. So I could see him going here, and he would be a massive, interesting. He would be an interesting horse. I think he's got loads to come. I do.
Yeah, I agree. I think he looks a really nice type. I did pitch him that I think he's probably I think he could be sort of mid-50s, 150s horse this season. Wouldn't make him too far off of a a JLT sort of horse. Although as the years go on, it's the same as the Ryanair. It's not as bad a race as we sometimes sort of pitch it as. They're getting better class of winners going in there and actually winning the races, but it's still, like you say, it's not the first preference at the beginning of the season. No one really wants to be running their horse in a JLT. I don't think anyway.
It's that sort of race that you look back on the winners of it, and you go through it and you think, Christ, this is normally turns up a good horse. Definitely the Soul, Shattered Love, York Hill, Black Hercules for Tall, those types of horses. But at the time you look at it, you sort of think this is a load of old rubbish, don't you?
That's it. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen, but probably one that you can get involved with near the time. Make use of obviously free bet offers that come out, being the opening race of the day. That can help you. And even if you're getting your free bets build up to the festival, it's one of them races where you might want to back a couple in there. We've got to talk about the Pertemps very quickly, given the fact that William Hill priced up all the handicaps a couple of weeks ago, and they made the storyteller 33-1. I don't think he was quoting them there. Someone had to request his price to be put in there. 33-1, he got backed into 25s. Then he was plot ridden, as everyone expected. He came sixth in his Pertemps thing. He's an 8-1 shot now for the Pertemps final. It's a hideous price to be backing him at now, but obviously I guess the wise guys would already be on. Tedham was another one that was put up as 40-1. We talked about him when we did the Christmas preview. I think I mentioned there about Pertemps with him. He was 40s, he's down to 16s. He didn't even run any Pertemps qualifier, so it's an interesting one. And then 2A Permis, obviously I was on him a while ago. He just keeps getting placed, all those sort of things. You just have to worry about the Irish ones when they come over, what the British handicappers do to them, I suppose. But anything in those races that you like in there, Jamie?
Oh, yeah, the storyteller definitely, you could see the last day, Dave Russell tearing him up the straight to get sixth, which was great. The horse I like inside is, I don't know if he's running a Pertemps qualifier yet. He was second in the Cesarovich to Stratham. Party Playboy. I'd be very interested in this horse if he ran here. I think this horse is well handicapped. Pens, as you said, Dave, is what mark will he get in England? I'd be very interested in this horse if he ran in the Pertemps qualifier. I think he has. I must check. But if he ran, I'd be very interested in him. But the price has gone down, the storyteller. That's ridiculous. 8-1. I'm like, you've 8-1, the storyteller, and the second favourite, the Sarah de Burley, who won it last year, has absolutely no chance of winning it. Like, do you know what I mean? So, if I was to have an each way selection, to be Party Playboy, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Darryl, you don't care about the handicaps yet, do you?
Not yet, mate, but the storyteller's going to go off at about 2-1 on the day. You know it.
Yeah, that's the beauty. Like with the Andy Post punting, I know loads of people hate it because they say it's tying up money or you don't get value, there's non-runners, injuries, all that sort of stuff. I love it for like exactly these reasons. Just when the bookmakers just make a rick. 33-1 was absurd. It was already entered for a Pertemps qualifier. It's one of them you just back. He's finished sixth. We're not talking about a horse that's running the race. He's won by 50 lengths. He's finished sixth and he's gone from 33s to 8-1.
Hey, it's a con, isn't it? It's a con. The whole system's got to change at some point.
I know, but do you know what? Part of me likes it. We talked before about when we briefly mentioned about 5-day festival, and I was saying about you should potentially put some conditions races in there for the novices. So you can have your 130 novices that don't have to go in a handicap. They can go in there sub 140 horses. It's just a whole nother element of plotting, isn't it? I love it. It's part of figuring it out, though, and that's where you get some good bits of value in there. The whole game is all about opinions. When it gets to the graded races, and they're all running off of level weights, everyone's got their own figures. I think they do. I just use the official ratings with a little bit of a hint of the stuff that I like about it. It tends to be a bit more obvious in the graded races, which is why I like it. But the bookies know that as well. When you get to some of these handicaps, the junior odds compilers they must hire and fire is unbelievable. Someone at Bet365 is getting sacked on a daily basis the way they price up. It's ridiculous.
The only handicapper I'm interested in, I think I've got a certainty for the Grand Annual.
Save it.
Save it.
No one's watching that. No one's going to allow to know that on Thursday. So we've completed the Marsh Novices hurdle. We've completed the Pertemps. The Ryanair chase. So as I touched on, it's one of them again that's sort of not frowned upon, but it's sort of played down a bit. Halfway house between a champion chase and a Gold Cup horse. I think it looks a really fascinating renewal this year. I don't have a massively strong opinion in it. I did think Footpad would be one that I want to back if there's some slow ground at the festival, but I'd rather let him be half the price than he is now because I think he does need plenty of ease in the ground. But I thought he ran and travelled well enough in the King George for a long way that the Ryanair, although he was pantsing it last year, just you can stick a line through last season's form, I think, for footpad. He does still tempt me. It does depend where some of the other horses go. I liked Yannicka. I don't know why they ran him in the real kill. I don't really understand what move that was, so that's perplexed me a bit with him. I think Deffy's got to go Champion Chase. A Plutard should come here and not Champion Chase, despite being Shackle Horse White. It's the race for him to win, I think. Min's bound to be interested in a race like this now. I think Duvan could come here as well. It's one of them. There's loads of horses that I think could run well over the trip. It does obviously depend who does line up, but at this point, I wouldn't want to back anything anti-post, but I would be mostly interested in footpad if there was some slower ground, I think. Anything that you like in it, Daryl?
I do like a Plutard. I think he's a tasty price for this. I do like him. I think he was pretty impressive. I think he's got so much more to come as well. The other one in here, Riders on the Storm, is interesting. He's progressing at a rate of knots. Fell obviously last year in the Close Brothers, but you know, he's still got a little bit of Cheltenham experience, even if it was only at the sixth fence. I think he's got loads to come. That form beating Seb Haj at Aintree is decent. The winner, Ascot, is good. I think ground's the key to him. I think he wants soft ground. I think there's a lot to like about him. He's very, very progressive. There's a lot of horses in here. One that won't run, the likes of Deffy. I don't know if Shackle or Pasquale is going to run there. Surname, you couldn't have him. Duvan, we don't know what's going on. I don't think Janika is good enough for the race like this.
No, probably right.
I'm afraid Janika for me was a bit of an improving handicapper that just sort of become tripless and not at the top level, but not rubbish either. I think he's got nowhere really to go, so I suspect he will run here, but I don't think he's good enough. And then you're down to like Altior, Silas Emery, Duchess Nivers, Froden. I think Riders on the Storm is a great price at around, what is he,
14's top price with a cash out as well.
14s, there you go, with the cash out as well. I can see him going off a lot closer to the top of the market than that when this cuts up. I think him and a Plutard are types.
Yeah, the thing with a Plutard, like you were saying, like because he was so good against Shackle Boursois, potentially from like a Ryanair target, might have shot himself in the foot a little bit because of the fact that he's got him beaten. That at the time Shackle Boursois was pretty much vying for favouritism for the Champion Chase. Is that going to persuade connections to stick him in a Champion Chase because of the lure of it? But I agree. I think he's.
I don't think so. I think they said afterwards that this was always going to be the plan. Unless I suppose it comes up like heavy ground, then maybe they'll go that way. But he's much better left-handed than he is right-handed. I mean, and he was only. There's just a lot to like about him. I love these improving types, like a Plutard, and they're very similar types of Plutard and Riders on the Storm. I don't know if I'll be backing him at around 6-1. Is that what it is? 6-1 a Plutard?
That's it,
yeah. I don't think I'll be backing that just yet. I'd like to know definitely the Saul's going to go elsewhere.
Well, that's it, and you'd want to know definitely that, like I said, he should come here at Plutard, but you'd want to know for definite that he was coming here and they haven't been swayed, because the extra value you get by taking the anti-post price, not knowing the target here, doesn't really weigh it up, does it? I think you'd want to wait at that price.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jamie, any thoughts on it?
I've tunnel vision when it comes to this race, Dave and Darryl. I finally, with Willie Mullins, put Min in the race. I think. Now I think it's a three horse race. I think if Plutard comes here, it's between a Plutard and Min, and I think definitely Riders in the Storm is cracking each way of it. He is improving all the time. You like to see that at horses. I think he might finish third, but I'm all over Min. Please, Willie Mullins, put him in this race. He should have been in this race 2 or 3 years ago. He should have 2 or 3 Ryanair. I think this horse will win. I think he's just a good horse. Now, my only problem is with him is that will Rachel Blackmore try to take on Paul Townend at the start and say, come on, I'll give you a go, I'll out-jump you and see how... And someone could pick up the pieces at the end like a Riders on the Storm. But I'm all over Min. It's my selection. Even if we do another review before the Cheltenham Festival, I'm Min. Min for me, I think he's cracking bed each way at 7-1, and he's my selection.
Yeah, I do like Min. He's one of those, like you say, he should have run in the race before now. what he did in the Melon Chase as well, when they sent him on, they tried to be a bit clever at Cheltenham and change tactic in the Champion Chase. Willie Mullins said after that he regrets doing that. I gave him a bit of a chance to beat Altior last year in the Champion Chase for the one reason. I thought the only way you beat Altior is you need to be in front of him and don't let him go past. Then Min is held up at the back of the field. It's balmy. But the thing with Min is he is a classy horse. The ones like you were saying there, like a Plutard, the Riders on the Storm, they're the more up and coming progressive types. I think this is the chance for Min to do it. I think he probably would have won the race last year doing handstands if he'd have run it, with no disrespect to like a Froden and an ASO that were up there. But I think this is the race we've become 7-1 again, those two skinny, because until Willie Mullins finally declares him for this race, I worry whether they're going to run him in the Champion Chase again. I mean, they shouldn't. He should come here, but you'll probably still get 4 or 5 to 1 when we find out this is the confirmed target. I'd rather wait to back him, I think. Darryl, you're ready?
I just wonder if Min is much better on a flat track. Probably. His Leopard's Town, his Aintree. I just wonder if that's where he's been the most impressive. I'm not entirely convinced that Cheltenham he loves Cheltenham.
It could completely be that as well, yeah.
He's been beat twice by Altior by 7 lengths, 3 times by Altior, of course, but 7 lengths, and 11.5 lengths. I know that's over 2 miles, like you're saying, but he was beaten by Politolog over this trip, last year.
In the Melon Chase. Oh, the year before, wasn't it? But then he was so good in the Melon Chase last year when Ruby let him go.
I know. Whenever a horse wins by 20 lengths, I'm always immediately going to question it. It can't always be as good as it initially looks. No. I see where you're coming from. He is the class act. I just wonder if Cheltenham is just not his thing.
Yeah, and you're right.
If he will get beat here and then go back to the race at Aintree and hose up again.
Yeah, and the worry I have with Min is the fact that he can chuck in a bit of a dodgy performance every now and again. The fact they don't exclusively know what the best way to ride him is. The fact they've changed him so much, he could easily go and run okay in a Ryanair, go short in a Melon Chase, me fancy him again there, and then go and flop. But he's definitely one that I will. Well, I've had a little bit on him already, but he's one that I would be looking to top up nearer the time if he definitely comes here. Probably for my sins, to be honest. I used to do all right in the Ryanair, and it's gone by the wayside recently. But a race I do well in, which is just a piece of piss, really, isn't it? Stayers Hurdle. I mean, there's only 2 words I need to say about this race, and then I'll just put it to the floor.
Paisley Park.
Paisley Park. I'm sorry, but this horse is. It was. We knew that he was going to win last year. You would have been hard pressed to find someone that wanted to take him on with a genuine reason. I'm disappointed that he didn't run at Ascot in the long walk hurdle. I don't know what. I don't want to be harsh to anyone or anything, but if the ground conditions are sound enough for the horses to run in, and the racecourse make that decision, then it worries me slightly when a trainer's sort of overruling it. But she did say straight after she knew she was probably being overcautious. All those little bits she found a little bit thought could be classed as false ground. And let's be honest with it. If you did end up running him there and he had a problem, if you've got a slight doubt in your mind, it's just not worth running him. So, I mean, fair play for having the balls not to run him. This, again, isn't a knock at a trainer, but something like when Altior ran against Surname, the way the conditions got there, maybe Nicky Henderson should have said, you know what, I'll save him for another day. I know options get changed, all those bits and pieces. But she's done the best thing by the horse there. The fact is, he's only strengthened up in the market since then, even though he didn't run. It just showed the lack of other horses to compete against him, given how crap that race was. If the Catfits were supposed to be coming over to Ireland, didn't happen. We've got Apple's Jade that bolts up in Ireland, who everyone's been saying has gone at the game. We know she's not very good at Cheltenham. I cannot see how this horse possibly gets beat. That was more than 2 words, wasn't it?
It was a lot.
Jamie, go for it, mate.
Paisley Park for me, and the only other selection really is if the cat fits each way. After that, I have no interest in the race. To be honest, Paisley Park just win.
Easy, Darryl.
There's nothing to take Paisley Park on, is there? I mean, I know I was not I'm not a massive fan. It just gives you that impression that he's beatable. He's one of those horses, but there's nothing in this race. Minello Indo's not going to go here. Apple's Jade can't run at Cheltenham. City Island's probably not going to go here. Commander of Fleet, Mr. Adjudicate, next destination's out for the season. Well, then you're down to the World's End. I suppose if you're looking for a bit of an each way bet, you'd probably back Thistlecrack, wouldn't you? At 20-1.
Yeah.
If they decide to chuck him back over hurdles. There's nothing in the race. I think Paisley Park will end up going off odds on for this.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with Thistlecrack that you touched on there as well, and obviously no one knows exactly what's going to happen, all those bits and pieces, but he didn't run at the King George because of a stone bruise, didn't he? I think it was.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't predict any of that sort of stuff's going to happen, but they were talking so much before, weren't they, about the fact that he's going to go back over hurdles.
Yeah.
Long walk hurdle, and then obviously Paisley Park didn't run. They potentially they should have just run him in that. They should have run him in the long walk, and then potentially Thistlecrack could have been coming in off the back of a really impressive long walk hurdle win, and he could have been a lot short price. So I definitely like that. He's 25, isn't he, for a price? Yeah. He's only a stone bruise. He'll recover from that, surely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What about worth mentioning? I think Emma Tom. How poor was he in the real kill? That was a bit of a worry, wasn't it?
I don't know. First time up. Probably, it's been a long time since we've seen him back in April. His form stands up from last year.
Absolutely.
So, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt there.
I was worried about how poorly he was going. Then it looked like he was going to stand a little bit up the hill, and then he didn't really stay on. And I was thinking, maybe he needs to run all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. He's obviously had a setback this season, which is why he's not going over fences. They probably will run him in the stairs, or they could run him at Aintree, couldn't they? But I think he just needs to be put away and leave until next year, because he could be a serious chaser. I don't want him to do too much of him. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh with it, but there didn't seem to be anything about him on Wednesday.
I've never really thought he was going to be a superstar, to be honest with you. I never really thought he was that good, but I think he's got a bit about him. I'm not entirely sure he could be competitive in this.
No, and that's what worried me about him the last day. I backed him at Aintree behind Champ, and I really hoped he was going to win that day, and I thought he ran really well. But that was as lifeless as I've seen him. But he's entitled to have needed to run all those bits and pieces. Yeah. So we're happy to leave the stairs there. Paisley Park wins. Thistlecrack comes second.
Yeah.
So on to the Brown Advisory Meribel stable play. We won't know what's going to run in here until nearer the time. I wouldn't have an opinion, probably even on the week of the race, but definitely not this far out. Anyone got anything?
No, I just looked at it there and nothing stands out.
Daryl, super nap? No. So on to the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. One of the greatest races of the Cheltenham Festival. What I will say about this is, Lamar Ice that we mentioned, I've mentioned on multiple of these that I've done. It was a big price talk and all those bits and pieces. I have read something publicly available. I can't remember where it is, but I'm told that it's not going to run this season. So be worried about the price that it is. I think it's hurt a leg or something like that. It's done something.
Sorry, who?
Lamar Ice, the second favourite.
Same crowd as Classical Dream.
That's it. So yes, I think that's had an issue. There's been comment about I wouldn't know for absolute definite because nothing public's come out in terms of it not running again this season. But I definitely read something somewhere or was told that it's not going to run. Dulcita looked quite good. Marie's Rock was the one that was. I didn't expect her to win as well as she did. I know Silver Forever wasn't in the race, but she looked very, very good. There's some other ones at bigger prices. The Glancing Queen, I don't know why we haven't seen her yet, but I would have been interested in her at the start of the season.
I think she's
what's that, sorry?
I think Alan King, I read somewhere, I think Alan King said she might be gone for the season as well, the Glancing Queen.
Oh, and she's a short enough price anyway at 12 to 1, wasn't she? It's one of them that previously, when we had Willie Mullins going in there, you could look towards the head of the market and you get yourself a winner. Obviously, Honeysuckle didn't come over last year, which now looks even more disappointing. Would have been clues for her going left-handed, bits and pieces like that. Epitante did run here at a short price, underwhelmed, but we have to put a line through that. That can't have been her true showing. It just worries me this year. Well, not worries me, but look at it this year. There's nothing really that jumps out. One at a bigger price now, My Whirlwind for Nikki Henderson. There was a positive update on her that she might be coming out soon enough. I think she was a £400,000 purchase at one of the sales not so long ago. So that's a lot of money for a mare. Big price 33s, but yeah, I've backed Dulcita, Lamar Ice at big prices. I wish I'd backed Marie's Rock at a big price. I haven't. On at a bit of a short price. But is there anything in the race that, Daryl, you fancy? You love the Mayor's Novice Hurdle.
No, mate, load of old rubbish. No, you got Lil's not bad, also, but apart from that, no. Nothing for me in this.
Fair enough. Jamie, anything you liked?
Well, There's a few I like, but they're all Willie Mullins, like, you know, like Dodge Sheeta, Lammerkais is Willie Mullins, but she's gone. Royal Illusion, nah. Floresta, I know. Floresta was a horse of Nick Anderson that impressed me at Newbury last day. But there's a horse like the horse that I fancied actually for the Cheltenham bumper, like you, Tread, can't run in it. A horse that Gordon Elliott called Big, Bad and Beautiful. I think this horse has so many gears. Like, I'd like to see it out in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle before Cheltenham. I'd back it to win at Cheltenham then. But I think you'll see her to next year, maybe. Yeah. The one that sticks out for me, one there the weekend, horse Willie Mullins ran a bumper at Punchestown last year. I think she needs to go ground. It's a horse called Colreevy. I'm really interested in this horse. This is back form with all the good bumper horses last year at Cheltenham. Yeah. I think this horse could be a class above him. Now, what they'll do with the two of them, hopefully, is that Dodge Sheeta and Colreevy, the best trial is the Fairy House Grade 3 Mayor's Novice Hurdle coming up there in a couple of weeks' time. Wins that is their number one contender. And I suppose you're better off holding fire to length to see who's the best Irish horse. So for me, at the moment, if I was making a selection with her back form and bumpers, would be Colreevy at 16-1 each way at the moment. But I have to see her in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle at Fairy House to make any selection.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's well worth you bringing her up as well, because the two interesting things about her would be the fact that she's 16-1 top prize with William Hill. She's as short as 8-1 elsewhere, so she's a big price if you wanted to take a bit of a punt on her. She is obviously Willie Mullins. The Mayor's Hurdle you're talking about before Cheltenham, that would be the one that Dulcet is definitely going to go for, because I think they're going to be taking the same Lorena route under that. Whether they put Colreevy in there as well against him, I'm not 100% sure. But as you say, going through the back class of its form, bumper form was really good. Beat Abacadabras, didn't it, in the bumper? It's Maiden Hurdle where it got beat by Midnight Run. That's a serious horse. So although it was odds-on favourite, can let that go. The only thing with her that slightly puts me off now is I think she might want a bit more of a trip, but it's only against the girls. 16-1 she is with William Hill at the moment. That looks too big to ignore, I suspect. Boom, sign that up. So Thursday's going really well. We've got 4 winners. We didn't bother in the Brown and Advisory Stable Plate because we were at the bar spending our winnings. But we've come back out the bar for the Muir Handicap Chase.
The biggest plot job of the year.
Take it away, Jamie.
Oh, there is only one horse that's going to win this race, Dave and Darryl. It's Glenlow. Oh, my God. Here we go. This is another, any second now. What was the horse? Second. Oh, Cause. Another plot that time. I think this horse. They're running over the wrong trip all year. You have to remember, this horse should have beaten Delta Work in the Pertemps final. I backed Glenlow, of course, that day beat Delta Work. I'm still sick about it. But I think this is I'm like Derek O'Connor or Jamie Codd will be booked for this horse. I'd say people are saying it'll be Derek O'Connor. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be Jamie Codd because it's a Gordon Elliott horse. Oh, I can't wait to back. I backed this horse already, but it opened up at 25-1 there a couple of weeks for William. It's 10-1 now. Oh, this is the plot of the year. Get on.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, isn't it? It wins. The worst thing about it is, and we talked about some other horses like the Storyteller at big price a while ago, and then it gets backed in, then it ends up being a bit of a short price. I still think there's some juice in 10-1 about him. You can boost it on William as well. I agree with you. It just wins. Darryl, you on?
Oh, I'm 100% behind you. 100% behind you. This just wins. Get the lot on, lads. Get the lot on.
The beauty for this far out is it'll be priced up with Sky Bet as well. It's a slightly shorter price, but anyone gets your Sky £5 free bets and all those sort of things. Chuck a few little bets on them. It's 10-1. You don't need to be having your life savings on it to make a few quid. And it is a handicap, and we do need to make sure that it gets in all those bits and pieces. But as far as 10-1 shot goes, this is value, I think. Yeah. Dare I say? All right. Let's hope that ends up being the case. But because it's the last race of Thursday, I can always crop this bit out later if it all goes tits up. But we'll call that a wrap for Thursday, and then we'll come back to go through Friday's racing, Gold Cup Day.